I thought it would be fun to include my own music, considering the subject area of this video.
Lord have mercy, man. Are you ever going to get started? Roll tape, and let's go on a trip.
Very first way that I expressed my creativity was by drawing. I used to love drawing because it was something I could do by myself, and I could do it anywhere, and I could just focus and be totally immersed in it. You see here, it's kind of interesting, this picture. I've got three of my special interests growing up all in one picture. You got drawing, piano, and records all there in one picture. You see here that in this picture, this is me later, still a kid, but I'm here with my cousin, and we're both drawing. And when we would do that, we wouldn't talk or anything. We'd just be sitting there drawing with each other. And that's kind of, I think, common with autistic children, that if they do play with others, it's sort of a parallel play, or maybe what they call body doubling. But anyway, where you're both immersed in an activity, but it's sort of, you're together but separate. You're not really interacting directly with each other. You're just kind of in the same room. And that was always, whenever I would do anything with other kids, that's always the way it was. It was always a parallel play where I wasn't directly involved. Like, for instance, I had another buddy that he and I would pretend to be superheroes, but we'd be on separate missions. Like, he'd go off on his own mission, and he might even be in the front yard, I'd be in the backyard. Really captured my imagination. This was, it captured my imagination big time, and that was superheroes. And first of all, it was Superman. And I don't even remember where I first heard of him, but man, I was hooked, and I really got into the comic books. I was hooked on comic books for years and years. Later, my family took a vacation up to Washington, D.C., and I didn't give two craps about the White House or the monuments and all that kind of stuff, and all the institutional government buildings and all that. And but I remember my dad, somehow we found out that there was a comic book store up there in Washington, D.C., and while we were on that trip, my dad took a couple of hours and took me over to that comic book store, and which I thought was really cool of him to do that. And I remember I got this issue of Spider-Man with the Green Goblin in it, and another issue of Spider-Man where he is kind of battling Quicksilver, one of the Inhumans. Now this what fascinated me about the Inhumans was they inhabited their own closed society, their own closed world, and they were kind of their own, I guess, species. They were called the Inhumans, and they all had special powers. Each one was different. There was one named Triton who could was like Aquaman. He could breathe underwater. And Black Bolt was their leader, and he was super strong. And in fact, he went up entangled with the Thing from the Fantastic Four and held his own. Also, like the Black Panther, he had his own kingdom called Wakanda, and it was a closed society that was secret. So those kind of characters fascinated me, and like the X-Men, they were sort of outcasts. They were mutants, and they had special powers they were born with because of mutations, and they were outsiders and rejected, but they still wanted to protect those who were rejecting them. They still wanted to protect the earth, and so in their own way they were very noble. And I was always interested in characters that were loners and kind of did their own thing, or they explored by themselves. Some examples would be Hulk, Bruce Banner. He was named Bruce in the comic books, not David, like in the TV show. But he was always forced to be by himself because he didn't want to give away his secret that he was the Hulk. And in fact, the TV show, I was more interested in it because of the David Banner character and Bill Bixby's character. And I am a fan of Bill Bixby. I was more interested in Bill Bixby than I was the Hulk, because he the way he had to be by himself, and he was kind of isolated, and I could relate to that. Oh, another tangent. There is a wonderful episode of Mr. Rogers where he talks with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno on the set of The Incredible Hulk. Now, it was pretty incredible to me to see Mr. Rogers and Bill Bixby together, two good men, and so I would recommend finding that, and I believe it's here on YouTube. Another example of a character that was by himself and isolated was the monster of Frankenstein. Luke Cage, Adam Warlock, Man Wolf, Deathlock, the Demolisher. That he fascinated me. His comic books came out when I was in like around second grade, and he was half man, half cyborg, and he had been changed to that against his will. He had died, and these scientists put him together like that, and it wasn't his choice. And he was exploring a dystopian world, the United States, after some kind of, I guess, nuclear war or something. So this was set in the future, and he had an internal computer that he was always arguing with. And anyway, that character always fascinated me. Next tangent. You may have noticed that those books I was holding up there, they're books, they're not comics, they're reprints of comics that are in book form, because I no longer have the vast majority of comic books that I bought growing up. I recommend, if you have any kind of collection that's from childhood, that you never sell it, you never throw it away, because it's irreplaceable. Even if I had the money to buy back all those issues of those comic books I had, they would not be the same comic that I actually bought. I could buy another Captain America 100, but it's not the same one that I bought at a comic book convention when I was a teenager. So if you have collections, think very deeply before getting rid of them. But I was big time into comic books. I was a card-carrying member of FOOM when I was in first grade. It was a fan club created by Marvel Comics, and FOOM stood for Friends of Old Marvel, FOOM, and this awesome poster came with it, and I still have that poster. It was drawn by Jim Steranko, a wonderful artist. Also, I had an artist you may have heard of, Bob McLeod. He was famous for his work on Spider-Man, but I had him draw me Captain America at a comic book convention that I went to, and my dad took me to a couple of them. And again, my dad was not into comic books and superheroes and all that kind of stuff, so he was like a fish out of water there. Anyway, so Bob McLeod was there, and you could pay to have him draw something for you. And again, he was famous for his work on Spider-Man at the time, and I think he was ticked off that I asked him to do Captain America instead of Spider-Man, but I still have his drawing, and it's a really good drawing. And speaking of drawing, I got this book here, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, when I was a kid, and it's a pretty good book. It's by John Buscema and his brother Sal. Sal Buscema is my favorite artist on Captain America. Other kids had like a security blanket or a teddy bear. Well, that's what this was to me. I carried it with me everywhere, and that's why it's kind of in rough shape right now. In there, Captain America had this battle with this character named Moonstone, and boy, it was an epic battle. Look at that, man. Isn't he cool? I mean, Captain America was just so strong and courageous. All the things that I wanted to be as a little boy, you know.